and we're going to be talking about eToro, a platform that's used for investing and is clearly known worldwide. Now, I'm going to show you different points from my perspective, but I'm also going to talk about how you can analyze these types of platforms. We have already done analysis on XTB, now comes the analysis on Interact. Active brokers. We are already doing analysis on all brokers so that you know what you should know about each broker, what they don't normally tell you because everything is always said superficially, but it is not discussed in much depth. So, well, we start by talking about how this platform is one of the oldest platforms in the stock market investment field, and it is one of the, let's say, in quotation marks, most traditional in terms of ease. This platform, since its inception, was literally born with the goal of being very easy to use. That's why you see so many people talking about eToro, and it's because it's so easy. Easy to use even for people who are new to the stock market and are just starting out. Now, what you can always analyze on these types of platforms and entities is to go down here where it says Trustpilot. They will always have a page on Trustpilot for a reason for reviews. So you have to go in and see how people are doing, obviously. However, you will never, ever find any broker, any platform, any site of this style that does not have negative ratings. There will always be someone who has had a bad time because it is. Obviously, in fact it says so here, it has 35 million users. Obviously among 35 million users there are going to be problems. And I'm not saying this to defend this platform. I'm saying it at a general level. When on a day-to-day basis, make a restaurant and look at its opinions. They are always going to have negative opinions as well as positive ones, but don't always expect to find a 5 for example here. A 4.9 bordering on perfection anywhere because you're never going to find it. It's always going to be a little bit below, and that's what it's all about. The ones that are really bad are the investment platforms. If they tend to have a score of 2.8, 2.7 because there are already many more opinions from people who have done badly than from those who have done well. In this case, on the part of Toro, it is saved that they have 4.11 has 4 stars, and for the number of users, the truth is that it is quite good. Now let's go in here. They'll look at the platform itself. As we see, this is the interface. We have a platform on the web page, completely easy and understandable and digestible. While we also have on the cell phone a platform of the same way on the phone, but you also have to understand that whoever wants to go a little further and more advanced really. For that type of person is not the bull of bull, does not have such advanced tools at the time of investing there. You can go more like an interactive active brokers, even XTB. Could also become, but in general it is to invest in a very easy way, basic and straightforward. Now on eToro, we find a ton of ways to invest. We have a lot of ETFs, we even have indices through CFDs, and we have many stock exchanges, 20 stock exchanges, plus cryptocurrencies. Personally, I don't recommend investing in cryptocurrencies through eToro. It's pretty expensive compared to traditional exchanges. So I'd say you should look for cryptocurrencies elsewhere, maybe on another platform. Don't go to eToro to invest in cryptocurrencies. That's true, in the stock market there is that. Yeah, super good. And above all, this isn't just about eToro, but more on a general level. If the platform lets you use leverage, don't do it. Leverage is very useful. But for those who are aware of it, and even those who are aware of leveraging, they end up losing money. So, it's probably better not to use this option, especially depending on the regulations we have, which I'll explain more about later. Then with eToro, we have something really good because, just like I said, it was designed to be an easy platform. It was born with the goal of being a social investment platform. What does this mean? It's like a social network, kind of like Facebook, but for investing, where you can follow people. I've explained this 20,000 times already. If you don't understand it, go to my channel and search for more finance copy trading. And there you'll find how to use this, how this copy trading thing works. But in short, it is, for example, this person who appears here. If I want to copy your portfolio and copy your movements, if that person invests 20% of his portfolio in Nvidia, for example, then my 20% of portfolio will also. In the same way, you should invest in her investments, in Nvidia, etc. And this is really helpful for people who don't want to worry about investing directly. But I say that with a grain of salt because you do need to pay attention. Just because you're following someone's moves automatically and you don't have to do anything doesn't mean they're perfect. In fact, nobody is perfect when it comes to investing. So when you're investing, it's possible that the person you're following starts making bad decisions and things could go downhill fast, which could lead you to lose all your money. So it's definitely a good idea to keep an eye on things. But anyway, this is the platform that was born with the concept of copy trading. And in my opinion, it has developed that concept the most. I mean, it's the one where you can invest this way the most, and where you can copy portfolios the best. Of course, there are other exchanges for crypto or other brokers that also have this feature, but I feel like here you find everything, every type of investor. It's not just one kind. In a certain type of sector, there are people who invest for the long term, and there are others with different investment goals, and they manage it really well, let's say, in a moderate way. That is, at the moment when you are investing in copy trading, what happens is that the person, for example, if I follow her, she will get paid, so that I follow her. So obviously, it's in her interest for her to do really well so that I want to keep following her, let's say, and other people too, so that eToro keeps paying her. And if she has fewer followers, then obviously she's going to get paid less. That's why these people also have the goal of achieving really good returns, not just for themselves and their portfolio, but because if they have a really good portfolio and good profits, then clearly more people are going to want to follow them. The other thing is the topic of education. So on eToro, we found a lot of information, however, until recently I noticed that almost everything was in English. For Spanish, we hardly find any, but I recommend that you come here. If you don't have much knowledge about investing, go ahead and start learning now, and here you're going to find quite a few things, but within what's available. Comparing it to other brokers, it doesn't have much information. In Spanish, it can be useful for us. In English, so if you know English, super good, and you can look it up in English, eToro in English, and there you're going to find a ton of information. We arrived here. We also have this thing about earning annual interest, but this applies to certain places. So we need to check. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because, like I said, it's not for all locations. However, you can come here for more information and see who it applies to, who it doesn't, how they're going to earn it, what balance they need to have to generate that interest, etc., etc. Now, once we're on this platform, we also need to understand, well, everything else. That comes with an investment platform is the topic of its values, let's say. Here it says it's social, reliable, safe, and global. But also, beyond this, we need to talk about the deposit amounts and all that. The minimum deposit amount in the vast majority of countries is $200. That's the minimum you can deposit on eToro. But in some countries, you also need to check. This amount can be lower. So you have to check within the platform when you register what the minimum is. But generally, in the vast majority of countries, it's $200. But once you deposit those first $200, all the following deposits to that can be a minimum of $50. That is to say, the minimum goes down. And in almost all countries, it works the same way. And here it is like sponsorship of soccer teams from around the world. I think so. The vast majority are soccer teams or other sports teams that, to be honest, I know. But you know, a lot of exchange platforms have that too, and don't let that sway you because there are many platforms that have come out in soccer teams, in stadiums, and have fallen. I mean, they've been scams. So, this is a good thing because it gives brand recognition, but it doesn't necessarily mean we should trust it just like that. So keep that in mind, as it's really important. Now let's scroll down to the bottom here because I want to mention something to you. And it's this matter right here. We have eToro Europe, eToro UK, eToro Seychelles, etc., etc. For Latin America, in general, almost all of us are going to get into the Seychelles topic, which was over here. And, in fact, there used to be a way where you could say you wanted to change your regulation, and you could switch. For the UK one, which was the one that interested most people, because it's just way better. I'm not saying that in Seychelles you're going to lose all your money, because in reality, well, almost yes, they have regulation in all these places. But, obviously, if one of these gets affected, almost all of them would be affected. So, the issue of regulations has to be, take it with a grain of salt, because sometimes we see that there are brokers regulated in Seychelles, and we sometimes look at them with a bad eye. Now, if it's only regulated in Seychelles or the Virgin Islands or places like that, those tax havens, then that's something to worry about. But in the case of eToro, not so much, because we really see that they do. It has regulations in Europe and the UK, which are pretty strict when it comes to regulating these types of platforms. And while for some of us, this type of regulation might not apply, it's important to know that they do have them. Now, you can give it a try. In fact, I'm going to log into my account over here. And if you notice, over here, I have my account on eToro, UK, and eToro United Kingdom. So you can do the same and just send an email to support. But I've noticed that some people have been telling me lately that this is no longer possible, that eToro is telling them no, that they have to stay in Seychelles or some other, let's say, regulatory control. So, well, it's not really bad that you appear, for example, the other one that's pretty good is the one from Australia. That's the one I was on before. The only thing you can really change that will matter a lot to you, it's the issue of leverage, where in some places you'll be able to use leverage and in others you won't. And then there's the other thing. If, for example, I come here and say I want to invest in Nvidia, for example, we come here and I click to invest in some places. You may be told that you are buying, instead of shares, that you are buying another type of. So you're buying through CFDs, which are not the underlying assets. If it appears active, underlying, which is what normally appeared here, it was. Because you were buying the stock, just like, for example, right now, it shows shares here, it doesn't even show the underlying asset anymore. Or it shows up here, I think it disappeared, look over here. In fact, it doesn't say that. So, alright, but sometimes when you're investing, it might look like a CFD to you, which isn't really a problem. But a lot of people are more interested in investing directly through stocks. So, well, that's something to keep in mind. Now, if I come over here and, for example, say that I want to 200. For example, 666 shares, look, regardless of what I invest, it seems to me that the commission is $1. This wasn't the case before, but they added it some time ago. Previously, investing in eToro was completely free, but now we have to pay $1, which obviously means we need to calculate better if we're investing very small amounts. Because if you usually invest like $20, for instance, clearly $1 makes a big impact on your investment, so you have to keep that in mind. As for the regulation, look, we're talking about leverage here. This shows up for me like this because my account is in the UK, but if your account is in another country, it might not even give you the leverage option. It might just show one or a much larger leverage. This really depends on you, but in the regulation I'm under, they don't allow more than 1-to-1. Now, let me show you what I was saying about CFDs. For example, if I look for an index directly, not the ETF like the S&P 500, but the index itself, look, obviously, there's no index you can invest in. There are ETFs for investing in indices, but the index itself cannot be invested in. And if you notice, it says here that we are investing in a CFD, which is a contract. The contract is like, pretend that you are not making the investment in the market as such, that is, you are not investing in the New York Stock Exchange, but what you are doing, for example, in this case, is investing directly in a contract with eToro, where you, so to speak, bet on eToro and say, hey, look, I say that this $8,000 position is going to increase. So that tower tells you ready, then what happens is that if you increase the position and you make money, then that tower wants directly in that contract. It can be there depending on how the investment goes, then giving that money or not. Basically, that is like a contract. And then what happens is with these estimated opening costs is that here it is already a little more expensive, as you see $12 with 0.3. And that apart from the money schedule that you operate, because it also depends on the stock market. They can cure you one thing or another, but again, this depends a lot on the type of investor you are. For example, if we go to Tesla, let's see. In Tesla, we have the same thing that we had in this case in Nvidia, and it is a matter of $1. Now let's move on to an ETF like the VO. We're going to click on Invest. And here we see that if, for example, we put in $5,000, $50,000, well, look, it says order type, market order. And in this case, it's not charging me for the opening of the ETF. So in this case, we have no fee. It's something you should check because this, honestly, I can upload this video now and in 2 months ago, they might have updated it, but you simply go in and, for example, you click on invest somewhere, and here you click on this icon that says more information about bulk commissions, and you have to go in to see how much it charges you, for example, to invest in stocks. Here it says a commission of $1 or $2 can be applied when opening a position or closing a position in stocks. So the bad thing is that it is $1 in and $1 out. That is what not many people tell you too. Then on the subject of ETFs, look that they do not charge for operations in ETFs. So that is also super good. And then we have the commission of that this can be like a difference that you, for example, on platforms where you see the volatility of the market, it appears that the ETF is at $500 and on eToro it appears that it actually costs $500. Then that difference between the market value and the value that eToro gives you, so that also has to be taken into account, and the rest of the commissions that are there. I invite you to see it yourself because this depends a lot again on what you are going to invest. For example, if you want to invest in crypto, look at what applies. There are certain commissions as well and formed not only directly by the purchase, but by raffles, nightly, even daytime, and several other things like these. So with that said, if you made it to this point in the video, leave a smiley face emoji in the comments so I know who made it to the end and to see who really understood how eToro works and whether it's worth it for you or not.